I'll show you something really big, B-I-G, big, very big. If you go to John chapter 13, verse 29, so Judas Iscariot is leaving with the bag of money. Only in John, when the other disciples see Judas Iscariot leaving with the bag of money, what do they think? Certainly he's going to buy all the needs for the Passover meal. That can't happen in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Synoptic Gospels. Why not? Because they just ate it.
Good for business, a lot of phone calls. Okay, let me pick up the one I actually had on here. Let's go with Wayne. Wayne, right, you're live. Go ahead with your question for Rabbi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is in the same vein as the question that you just answered. You said that Mark and John do not agree on the day of the month which Jesus was crucified, but Mark and John mention the body needing to come down in preparation for the Sabbath. So in John's Gospel, chapter 19, verse 14 and verse 31, I'm wondering, is this Passover is on the Sabbath, or is the Passover a Sabbath itself? So would it be Saturday?
All right, this is a very easy question. Thank you very much for your question. I'm going to get hate mail on this. I'm not kidding. It's insanity. So there are people who disagree with this, and they're not correct. According to all four Gospels, Jesus was crucified on a Friday. Okay, this is very important. However, according to John, that Friday was the 14th day of Nisan, which means that night is the Passover Seder, the night of his crucifixion, that night. See, so all four Gospels place Jesus' crucifixion on Friday and his resurrection on Sunday. Now, I know some of you are going to go, but according to John, it was still dark. We'll ignore those minor details. I don't think those are important. But they're all saying Friday and resurrection on Sunday. All of them are. No, I know there are some people out there that, I don't know why, but I get such hate mail from people saying, no, he was really crucified on Monday afternoon. I'm joking. Some Wednesday. It's all very problematic. But let's just take, like, for example, you brought up John. So the Jews' unwillingness to enter the praetorium of Pontius Pilate, I mean, like the palace, because they did not want to be defiled, right? Because they wanted to eat from the Passover. This happens by the time of the crucifixion. Where do you find that? So the praetorium is mentioned not only in John, but that they would not enter because they didn't want to be defiled, because they wanted to be able to eat the Korban Pesach. That's only an issue in John, the Passover sacrifice. So you understand what's going on? I'll show you something really big, B-I-G, big, very big. If you go to John chapter 13, verse 29, so Judas Iscariot is leaving with the bag of money, right? What is the comment? What happens in John 13:29, and it's found nowhere else, as you would expect. Remember, if that's not a Passover Seder in John, that means it's the night of the 13th, not the night of the 14th, which is the 15th. Sorry, but in Judaism, the day changes at nightfall, not at midnight. 12 a.m. doesn't mean anything. It means when is nightfall. So only in John, and please look it up for yourself, this is at the Last Supper when the other disciples see Judas Iscariot leaving with the bag of money. What do they think? They think, what is he doing with the money? Certainly he's going to buy all the needs for the Passover meal. That can't happen in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Synoptic Gospels. Why not? Because they just ate it. You see how everything changed like this. So in John, it would make sense that these stories are just created. You understand? So what happens is John has a certain belief. Now, John did not invent this belief. This is a big surprise to people, but actually the notion that Jesus is our Passover it predates all the Gospels and appears already in Paul's letters. 1 Corinthians 5:7. But the Synoptic Gospels are completely unaware of this. So these ideas, like all these cockamamie ideas, just develop in different areas, and some people know about it, some people don't. But then they send them an email, get on a call. You're living in your world. In the ancient world, these things didn't exist. People didn't travel much. People didn't know. And myth just very quickly, we just saw epic events happen in Israel not that long ago. All crazy stories developed. 9/11. I remember after 9/11, within, I don't know, how long did it take for people to come up with convoluted stories that the Pentagon, there was no, the Pentagon is something else. I'm not kidding. And I interviewed people like this who believe these things, and that happened immediately. Can you imagine the ancient world? Minutes, things just spread in the ancient world, what they did they created datum to match their doctrine, what they believe. So if you believe that Jesus was crucified on the day before Passover, which is a Friday, you then create your stories to comport with that. Paul's letters do not have these kinds of stories in it. They're just not there. Like all the passion narrative, that's not in Paul's letters. Paul's just not aware of it. He's probably not aware of it. So you don't have that. Paul just says, when he was crucified and so on, that's in there, but the whole elaborate thing. So that's what's going on. All the Gospels hold that Jesus was crucified on Friday. The only question is, was it the eve of the Passover? Well, it definitely was the eve of the Sabbath. So according to Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that Friday was the first day of Passover, which means the 15th day of Nisan, the first month, which means they ate the Passover meal the night before the crucifixion. You got it? And that's why there's no concern in the Synoptic Gospels about entering the praetorium, because a house of a Gentile, especially a praetorium, was problematic. Why? Because the Goyim, the non-Jews, they would bury dead people in their houses. They would, it was all defiled. There was all this. There's no prohibition of coming to contact with the dead ordinarily, but if you can eat the Passover sacrifice, it becomes a huge concern. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there's no concern. Why isn't there concern? It all works perfectly. It's like a math equation. They're not concerned because they ate the Passover meal last night. So it doesn't matter anymore if you come into contact with the dead or don't. You walk into a house of a defiled guy or not. Doesn't matter. But in John, it's very important because they're eating the Passover Seder Friday night. You understand? Okay, thank you for your question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה